Ooh, I love using that. Welcome, everybody, to our first Joint Education Committee meeting of the year. So it's going to be a fun committee, I can tell. And we're very bright colored. I don't know if we really talked about who was going to wear what colors, but hey, we're going to have some fun and we're going to look good too, right? Anyway, before we get started, even with roll call, I'd really like to have Ashley come forward. She doesn't know this is happening, but we might as well just get the fun stuff going right away. So the House and the Senate both decided to pool our resources. We're already working together. And we've got some cards, some flowers, and some wonderful little gifts in here for you to thank you for all the things that you did for us this year. And I hope you like to read, because there's something here from Barnes & Noble. There's something here for clothes. There's something here for food. And I was going to even get some coffee. You know, I didn't know if you were a coffee drinker, but we got a bunch of good things here for you. So we'd just like to thank you so much. So.
And that's a little shamrock for good luck for the year and for months.
I knew you were going to do this. I would have waited to go live.
I knew that. That's exactly why I waited. She's been amazing. And most of the other groups have 2 secretaries. She does the work of 2 or 3. So anyway, thanks for everything. All right, let's go ahead and take roll.
Absolutely, Madam Chairman. For Joint Education, March 5th, 2025, Senator Brennan.
Here.
Senator Olson. Here. Senator Rothfuss.
Excused?
Senator Scott.
Here.
Representative Bratton. Here. Representative Erickson.
Here.
Representative Guggenmoss.
Excused.
Representative Kelly.
Here. Representative
Lawley.
Here.
Representative Singh.
Excused.
Representative Strzok. Perfect, thank you.
Counts.
Representative Williams. Here. Chairwoman Schuler.
Here.
Chairman Andrew.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you so much. I actually had asked Chairman Andrew if he wanted to just split the meeting up today. You take half, I'll take half. That's kind of, you know. He said, no, you'll let the old lady do it first. So the old lady, no, he didn't really say that. He may have said the wise older lady. No, he didn't. Honestly, he didn't. He was very accommodating. So anyway, what I'd like to do, we've passed out a topic priority ranking. And so if each of those folks would just get those to their chairman when we're done today, that would be great. I would like to start with our agency people first. And so I saw the First Lady, and I think she probably deserves to come up first. Don't you all think that? And let's start with her and anybody else that she'd like to bring up with her to talk about the first topic that she has. And welcome.
Well, good afternoon, Chairman and committee members. I'm Jenny Gordon, and I've been a Wyoming citizen since 1980. And as they say, I wasn't born here, but I got here as quickly as I could. A University of Wyoming graduate, I'm a mother of 4 children born and raised in Wyoming, and a grandmother of 5. And like every mother and grandmother in Wyoming, I know what a hungry child is like. They can't think, and they certainly can't learn. And what brings me before you today is children facing insecurity. Those that live in a food desert and don't have enough to eat, and those that live in a food swamp where only junk and fast foods are available. To offer some perspective, in every state, there is a food security issue that affects men, women, children. And in Wyoming, we have over 83,000 citizens in that category. They're helped every day by organizations with private donations and volunteers. I founded Wyoming Hunger Initiative to fight our food insecurity, and we've successfully distributed more than $3 million over the last 6 years to organizations feeding children and families. And I'll note that the Food Bank of Wyoming distributes about 28,000 meals per day in our state on top of that. Despite the terrific work and commitment of these charitable programs and faith-based groups, they are unable to fully support those facing hunger. There are significant and consequential gaps, especially when it comes to our kids. And here are some of those gaps. The greatest generation of Americans stepped up in 1946 and passed the National School Lunch Program. They did it as a measure of national security to safeguard health and well-being in our nation's children. In my opinion, a healthy school meal is an essential school supply, just like the bus that comes with the flashing yellow lights to pick up our students to take them to and from the school building. Let's face it, few of us could do our work in offices, factories, mines, or farms and ranches, or even in this very legislative body if you're hungry or living literally on junk food. Statewide, over 35,000 of our children are on free or reduced lunches. Sadly, there's another 5,000 that don't even have access to the National School Lunch Program because their schools do not offer it. The National School Lunch Program is not perfect. To fill the gap in the program, school districts have been racking up debt to pay for some students, and the debt has become unsustainable. Once again, charitable organizations and foundations all over our state have come together to help those districts manage the debt. And some districts can only offer children an alternate meal, which is a sandwich and milk, or sometimes the juice from fruit cocktail. For those children, that's either the best or the only meal of their day. And they pay for it because other kids call that the sandwich of shame. And actually, the shame is that we, as a prosperous and growing state, do not take steps to help with this food insecurity in our children. Obviously, school is only 5 days a week, and there are vacation periods. And that's when the most significant gaps occur in these hungry children. And I'm pleased to say we have weekend backpack programs throughout the state, and thousands of children receive them. And again, it's donations and volunteers. And as a rancher myself, I'm a proud Wyoming rancher, and we have generously donated beef, and the Wyoming Hunger Initiative has paid for the processing so that we can provide at no cost to the organization a beef stick in every pack going out each week. Vacation periods are bigger gaps and ones that charities and volunteers are unlikely to close. I want to share a story with you that I heard when I did a visit to a Sublette County school. The counselor there pulled me aside and told me about a middle schooler who was a normally well-behaved student, but upon returning from Christmas break, this young boy was acting out and was very disruptive. She approached him and asked him what was up. And he simply said, "Christmas break is too long. There is no food at my house." So if 2 weeks is too long for a child, what does the 3 months of the summer look like? So here's the reality. 35,000 of our kids who face food insecurity will do so in the summer, and just like that boy from Sublette County did over his Christmas break. And it's not their fault. Their families are struggling and can't pay bills. And we can debate why that is or how we can get those families back on track. But in the meantime, those children should not be left out. So I ask on behalf of those 35,000 kids of Wyoming that you make this an interim topic. Please don't let it go away. Summer is coming. And I'll end with the words of Billy Shore, the founder of No Kid Hungry. He said, "When you see a fire, you don't say, 'This isn't my problem.' You don't say someone else should put it out. You call the fire department, you sound all the alarms, and you put the fire out. And we need to treat childhood food insecurity, bluntly hunger, the way it is, an emergency that we need to take care of." Thank you for your attention, and I will stand for any questions.
Any questions for the First Lady? See none. Superintendent Degenfelder, I know you requested this also, so would you like to chime in?
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, thank you. Megan Degenfelder, State Superintendent of Public Instruction. Wanted to echo some of the comments made by the First Lady. When I first came into office, I included school nutrition as a part of my strategic plan. And that is because I was hearing too many stories as I traveled the state of instances where a student would receive what is known as the shame sandwich, a piece of bread with a piece of cheese in it, or in an instance where a child would have a hot meal served to them, get to the end of the line, realize that their debt was too high, have to turn back that meal then being thrown in the trash because it had been touched by a child. and all of this unfolding in front of their peers. The First Lady's initiative is truly one of the greatest First Lady initiatives I've seen in my time. She's built an extensive network of programs to address this, and in some of the statistics she mentioned to you all, but they cannot do it alone. You may also recall that it was a little over a year ago where the Biden administration announced a new program, the Summer Electronic Benefits Program. I was pretty vocal about my unwillingness to participate in that program because I viewed it as a means of the Biden administration simply increasing welfare programs because the funding was strictly within those SNAP cards rather than direct meals to students. And it also required the state to pay half of the administrative costs, which would have had to come to this body. At the same time, the Biden administration was bullying us when it came to using their non-discrimination statements that were not mandated by law, but rather by guidance. And so I stand by that decision to not look to implement that program. But we also have an issue here. We have an issue where this is real, where our children are not able to learn properly, and we're dealing with behavioral issues because of hunger. And so in the last 6 months, we have created a stakeholder cabinet to address the summer feeding sites. While our exceptional nutrition team did manage to get 3 additional counties signed up for this summer's feeding sites, there's still work to be done in this area. And so I think that this committee could be a great opportunity for us to come together to discuss these federal programs, state funding, as well as things like software programming that is incredibly inefficient and expensive for districts. States like Alabama have pursued really doing that at the statewide level to have cost savings and efficiencies. I think it's a discussion about eliminating these classes of meals that children receive. And, you know, as always, I think that Wyoming, rather than the federal government, is best suited to solve these issues. And so that is why we bring jointly this topic to the committee today. Would stand for any questions.
Questions for the superintendent? Yes, Senator Scott.
Really a question, Madam Chairman. You know, feeding the children is primarily a parental responsibility. And you're quoting numbers where significant numbers of the kids are not being well fed at home. My question is really, and what's the causes of the underlying problem here, where they're not being adequately taken care of at home? Are we seeing an increase due to the gambling addictions that we're getting in this state? Are we seeing an increase due to parental drug use? What's going on to produce the problem, Madam Chairman? I think you have to understand the problem. We know we need to remedy some of the things, but what's the underlying problem, and why is it as bad as it is?
Thank you,
First Lady.
Chairwoman. Senator Scott, thank you for that question. It's a multitude of answers, but what we do know is that most parents want to take care of their children as best they can. We've seen throughout the state increased need in all of the food pantries and organizations serving people due to the high cost of living, the high cost of housing and things that they're not able to obtain. And so one thing you can minimize on is your food. You have to pay your house payment and your car payment, but you can cut back and you can buy top ramen or foods that are not necessarily nutritious, but very inexpensive, because that is what we see. If you want to buy fresh fruits and vegetables and good proteins, you are going to have to pay more money. So I think there are some issues. Some people do not make good decisions, but the child should certainly not suffer for the decisions that the parents are making that are not wise.
Further questions? Okay, thank you so much. I see that Representative Lawley and Representative Erickson both are on this bill. Would you like to say a few things? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I am also on this topic because I do think, first of all, we need to learn a lot more about the food insecurity. We need to see that it is in every community in Wyoming. And I think understanding that better will lead us to some potential solutions and where that might fit in terms of the school system. To me, it's an important topic. I was sad to see the summer program not pass, to be honest with you, and I feel like We can't continue to ignore the issue that these children should not suffer. But the better we understand the problem, Madam Chairman, the better we can offer solutions that might target what we really are dealing with. So I do support this topic. Thank you.
Representative Erickson?
I would also concur with that. I feel like this is something that we can really make a difference on and in our current situation and position. And so I was excited to be invited or talked to with about this. And I think we can do a lot. We can really bring the groups together and be able to identify even some of those problems that were talked about. Probably not make a huge difference there, but at least the idea of recognizing the numbers of insecurities that we have in this state. I used to help at the food bank with a senior class that did it was senior capstone, and they'd be required to do community service, and it would be a real eye opener to those students that were looking for opportunities to serve. We literally could not find enough people to serve what was needed in the community, and 3 communities actually that we served there. So yeah, I'm all for that and excited that we've taken this up in this situation and hope we continue it.
Any further comments? Okay. Oh, sorry, don't see Representative Singh.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I just wanted to pitch in that as we're having this conversation about the needs of the meals of the children, that we're also talking about the logistics of how we would want to undertake this, and if we're talking about local sourcing for these meals. So,
Any further questions or comments? Okay, thank you so much. We may actually hear this during recalibration, so regardless, we'll certainly keep it on the front burner and then see what our management council lets us do. But we appreciate you bringing this to the forefront. So nice to have you, First Lady, and also the Superintendent.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time and your service to our state.
Thank you. So Superintendent Dagenfelder, if you'd like to just stay, we can just roll right through your topics, and any of the representatives or senators that are on these bills can jump in. Does that work for you?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chairman. That's very helpful. I appreciate that. The first, and I don't know, Co-Chairman, if discipline was included in the list. I'm happy to talk through that. Okay, perfect.
It's on the list.
Perfect. Okay, I'll start there. So another topic that I included on my strategic plan was student discipline. And what we're seeing that there's far too great of a shift across the country to what is referred to as restorative justice rather than traditional discipline. And I've had teacher after teacher after teacher tell me about behavioral issues of students in the classroom. Everything from actual physical altercations to having to negotiate with a student, their attendance or their use of profanities in the classroom, truly issues that are disrupting our learning and classes. And the issues that I bring to you today are all about how do we, in an innovative way, take out those distractions that are keeping us from increasing in our achievement levels. That's really my focus today. Student behavior issues was also one of the 3 top concerns that was brought to us when we put together the Teacher Retention and Recruitment Task Force. I will also say that this topic it's really about empowering teachers to be able to control the learning environment. It's about ensuring that students learn that their actions have consequences, not only in the classroom, but in the future workforce and in the real world. We've also begun researching this topic. There are several states that have done things like passing laws around Teachers' Bill of Rights. But I think that largely there's still a lot of room in this area for Wyoming to be a leader in looking at what we do in terms of policy across the state. And so with that, we'll keep that short and stand for questions.
Questions for the superintendent? Senator Scott?
Madam Chairman, my question is, how much of the discipline problems, particularly in the junior high, high school level, are a product of the student being unable to do the classwork that they're expected to do because they have not learned the basics in the primary grades?
Superintendent?
Madam Chairman, Senator, it's difficult to say. I think that these behavioral issues, that there's so many factors that play into it. I do think that it also is in line with some of our other efforts of individualized learning, of making sure that we are treating every student individually and letting those progress as they are, but making sure we have remediation and we're targeting individual students. I think that plays hand in hand here, but I think it's difficult to say how much of that is involved. But I think this issue of discipline starts from the very get-go, from those earliest grades. A lot of these discipline issues we're hearing from teachers is starting younger and younger, as soon as kindergarten.
Other questions or comments? I noticed that Representative Andrews also submitted this. Would you like to chime in? Catch him off guard.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I don't have a lot to add to this, but I just know that in my time on this committee, this has been a frustration that has been brought forward by many teachers and other school staff as well, that there's just not a lot that we can do here. So I think it is really important that we take this up and investigate some of these policies that other states are doing and explore what we can do in Wyoming as well.
Thank you. Yes, go ahead, Senator Brennan.
Yeah, push the button. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just want to speak to this issue of student discipline. I think in my talking just with people out in the community, in the activities that my kids are involved in, not only are teachers frustrated with this, but a lot of times parents are frustrated with this too, especially when they have kids who want to learn and their learning is constantly interrupted by a student in the classroom, and they're like, who can do anything about this? And you talk to teachers, they're frustrated. I think that this is an important subject that we maybe get our heads around.
Thank you. Also, I just follow up on that. I noticed that you're talking about maybe taking a look at a teacher bill of rights, some of those things in other states, as well as some of the best practices in other states. I think that's a really good idea, because I'm hearing the same things, especially in our younger grade, the younger students. Teachers are getting very frustrated. It used to be a junior high kind of thing, but I think it's a very good topic. And anything else that anyone else would like to add? Yes, Representative Wald.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you for bringing this topic. I do think it's really important, and it has come up a lot as we've looked over the last several years. I've been in the legislature the last 2 years. When we've looked at teacher surveys, we've looked at issues of retention, and this comes up as an issue that really is causing teachers to leave the profession out of frustration and the lack of sort of guidelines and having some direction about what they can and should do, and what they cannot and should not do. And so I do think it's something that we should look at. And I have a granddaughter who it's not really a big issue of discipline in a classroom, but it's an issue of someone who is constantly interrupting, and that person has to sit by her. So she's had to bring in earbuds so she can focus on her work in the classroom. And that really shouldn't be. I mean, that we have that where kids that really want to learn are being distracted by and have to come up with their own methods, really, of trying to solve that problem. And so I think we can do better, and I think it's really important to what's happening in our public education system. And so I really support this topic as well.
Just one last question. I noticed that you had 4 hours on there. I think this may be a bigger topic. Do you think we may need more time than that? Just out of curiosity.
Madam Chair, I think that'd be great. And I also noticed there are a couple other topics that were presented that could probably be all rolled into the discipline and add some hours to it.
I agree. Okay, any other comments? All right, thank you so much. On to the next one, Superintendent.
Madam Chairman, thank you. The next I would mention is the topic of K-3 literacy, which dovetails nicely into Senator Scott's question. This has been one of my top priorities since first campaigning for office. Just a few weeks ago, many of you saw the NAEP results. That national comparator exam showed a 2% drop in the nation's reading scores in 4th grade. This is an issue across the country, and while Wyoming should be proud that we are outpacing most other states in 4th grade reading, we find ourselves ranked 3rd in terms of overall scores. In grade 8, we do drop to 16th. But despite this fact, Wyoming doesn't settle for good enough. We aim higher. We want to make sure that we are far exceeding even the top states in the country. We also recognize that on that NAEP test, even though we found ourselves third in the nation, that still meant that only 36% of our fourth graders were proficient or above. And so this is something we need to continue to press on. We want to make sure that every single child in this state is able to read at grade level. We've done much within the department over the last couple of years. Of course, got the universal screeners up and running, have started to take really hard look at the statute. I think that now is the time for truly comprehensive reform, rewriting that entire statute. I've spent hours, we've worked tirelessly on that statute, and it's very messy and confusing, and I think it's time that we kind of have a reset and we talk about what priorities are, how we match national best practices, the latest research, how we bring in our teacher prep programs, professional development, a lot of different areas to explore on that. Would also remind the committee that this fall, there is the elimination of our federal CLSD grant. And so we will be losing several individuals employed by the agency to work on literacy. And so I think that all of those together would make for a fantastic interim topic. We have a great place to start based on our work this last session. And I think we can just build from there. And with that, would stand for questions.
Questions for the superintendent? We must all agree that that's going to be a good one, so.
Madam Chairman, we've spoken about it a lot on
Yes,
this
we
committee.
have.
So
We've talked a lot about it. So. All right, if there's no other questions, we'll roll on to the next one. I think you still have one more, don't you?
Madam Chairman, the last one that I'll touch on, which is pretty simple, is the Hathaway Scholarship. This session, you'll recall, there was a lot of discussion around Hathaway. Most sessions there are. It's a popular topic to be discussing. There was discussion around potential changes from non-credit bearing courses to where those monies could be used. And we spoke a lot about, this might be better suited as an interim topic. When you look at the Hathaway statutes, it's complicated. There are a lot of different sections and one begins to, cascade onto the other. And so I think that this topic makes a lot of sense for the committee to look at things like uses of the scholarship, whether it's institutions or non-credit bearing courses. Also looking the fact that the merit-based levels have only increased one time since 2016, and UW has increased their tuition rate by 57% during this time. And so I think a good time to just look holistically at the Hathaway statutes. Would stand for any questions.
Questions for the superintendent? Okay. Yes, go ahead, Representative.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. We have another topic by a representative who has to also present a topic in another committee, but it relates to this Hathaway Scholarship. And her idea was something that we kind of discussed on the House floor, and for reasons of complications, let it go this year, but there, you mentioned uses of the Hathaway Scholarship, and that was a whole topic proposed here. So I think that would be another good one to just fold into a broad category of looking at the Hathaway Scholarship.
Sounds great. Anybody else would like to chime in? You've got a whole panel there, so please introduce yourself and tell us if there's anything else you want to add to this.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and committee. My name is Kendra Sollers. I'm interning for the Department of Education this semester, and I'm a student at UW. And this is purely anecdotal. I just wanted to add my perspective. But I've talked to multiple students who've just mentioned wishing they had a little bit more flexibility for what they use the scholarship for in terms of like meals or housing. So thank you.
Any questions from Solers? Okay. Anyone else would like to chime in?
Madam Chairman, I would just add to Chairman Andrews' addition of combining those. I think that that's completely appropriate. Again, that's just a matter of when we start talking about one topic that relates to other areas of statute. And so I think that would be absolutely relevant.
And I think Senator Roth was also, he's not back yet, is he? He also had sent that in as a potential topic. So I think there's probably good support. So if there's no other questions, then we'll turn you loose. Thank you so much.
Madam Chairman, thank you for letting me go through each of the topics. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. So what I'd like to do from here on out, if it's okay with the good co-chairman, is allow the people that are up here to bring their topics first, and then we'll open it up, turn you loose. And I think Representative Kelly, I believe you had one. If you want to, do you want to go first since you're on that farthest right? I can barely see.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. It's on page 5. it was brought by constituents about use of restraints and seclusion with violent students and severe behavior. I have personal experience working in this with students with severe behavior disabilities, and I believe this would be appropriate to just roll over into the school discipline topic.
Okay. Questions for Representative Kelly? I think that's a good idea. All right. Representative Strock's not here. Let's see, Representative Erickson, we already caught you, didn't we? Representative Andrew, I don't want to miss anybody. You were on the Hathaway, weren't you, as well? Senator Brennan. Oh, no, you were on the K3. Did you,
K3.
anything you want to say to that as well?
I'll just, well, if I can just.
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
You bet.
A little bit of latitude. So I was on the K3. We've heard a lot about K3 literacy in the time that I've been on this education committee. I think we've done some work in the right direction. I think there was a lot of work done with Senator Scott's bill, and then also the Department of Education has done a really good deep dive into this issue. And so that is something that I think we're really at a place where we could do some fantastic work in that area. My name is not on the Hathaway Scholarship, but that is something that I would definitely support looking at. And also my name isn't on the charter school stuff, but I would really like to take a look at charter schools.
Okay. And following along with that, I think Senator Olson, you may have some things you would like to talk about on your topic on public charter school statutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So I've got two topics here, but really can be rolled into one: charter school study in general. We've obviously activated charter schools. We now have them popping up, and as they pop up, and since we really created the alternative authorizer for charter schools, we've come back every session with some type of a change to the statutes. So I think it would be worth our time to just take a holistic view and look at the statutes to try to get everything in alignment. We need to look at funding flows, whether they should flow through the district or flow from some other mechanism to the board or to the charter schools independently. Transportation and SPED are issues. Looking at the accreditation process for secondary schools. And then we need to look at the board that we've created, make sure the structure of it is how we want it to be. I personally want that board to be as independent as possible. I think that we need to look at ways to do that and ways to make sure that it has the resources and staff necessary to do the job that we've tasked it to do. So, and then the other topic on charter schools was just more limited, so I won't get into that. I think the holistic approach is really what I'm interested in. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Questions for Senator Olson on the charter? Okay. Hey, I just have one, as long as we're on. How often does that charter board meet? Just out of curiosity. Does anybody know? Monthly. Monthly? Okay. Yeah, I never knew and I hadn't looked it up, so thank you for that. Appreciate that. All right. I believe we have Senator Rothfuss is still not here. We have, seems like a couple of other folks. I sent in one, but I think the person that wanted me to is here, so I'm going to let them do that. And then I believe the rest of them are probably open for the public to go ahead, unless there's, am I missing anything up here, committee? Okay. Let's go ahead then and open it up for the public to come up, and first come, first serve. Whoever's fast, jump up here. I'm all about speed. Now we've got plenty of time. Actually, we've got at least an hour, so. Please introduce yourself. Let us know what you want us to take a look at.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairman, members of the Joint Committee. My name is Erin Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of the Wyoming Association of Community College Trustees. I'm happy to be here and speak to, I'm going to speak in general, Madam Chairman, really quickly, and then speak to what's on this chart, if that's okay. I wanted to provide this committee, there's a lot of new members on this committee, and that is awesome. A little history with the community colleges and work with committees. For years, the community colleges kind of bounced around a little bit between appropriations for a few years, maybe education for a few years, back to appropriations. And I want to say 2 or 3 years ago, we really pushed Management Council to suggest that this committee is the home committee for the community colleges. And that makes sense, right? And so what I wanted to tell you is that we have an open offer, a standing offer, to however it might work within your agenda, knowing you'll be very busy, but to have that sort of dialogue on just educating the committee members about the colleges, how they're funded, how they're governed, all of those good things. The recent initiatives that have been passed in the last several years, connection to business and industry, the role they play with driving our economy. And so I wanted to make that offer to you first and let you know that that's there. Also, when you have your committee meetings, if you can take advantage of the community college facilities, they're all set up to do all of the things that you do virtually, and you've all been in those committees, so that's always a standing offer as well. To Madam Chairman, to what's on your page on page 9 with regard to career and technical education, of course, that's not the only thing the community colleges do. They're comprehensive, but it's a big part of what the colleges are doing right now to meet the needs of the workforce, which I know is a topic you are all very familiar with in each of your parts of the state, right? And so we would love to share what the colleges are doing in that space and talk about the programs like Wyoming Works, the scholarship opportunities for high need, high demand trade programs. That was established in the 2019 session. And Dr. Moritz with the Community College Commission is here and has some information on that, but that would be a good example of something the committee could be educated on and learn more about where those demands lie. The adult scholarship, the Wyoming's Tomorrow Scholarship, of course, just the needs and how they fit in with our K-12 partners, of course, and I know you had some bills that address that, and of course, how it fits in with the work of the Hathaway as well. So Madam Chairman, WACD is here, ready to help, representing the trustees. Whatever kind of resources I can provide, I'd love to do that for you. And with that, I would love to turn it over to Dr. Moritz.
Go ahead, Dr. Moritz.
Thank you, Madam Chair. +1 to all of the things Aaron just said, completely agree. I wanted to bring this topic to suggest for an interim committee. The workforce training that the colleges do is very important, and they are frequently standing up new programs in response to local industry. A great example of this would be out at Western Wyoming Community College. They just recently stood up a power line technology program because Rocky Mountain Power said we need more power line workers. They utilized Wyoming Works funding, which was available at that time, but is no longer available without an additional appropriation, to acquire a bucket truck, power line poles, and to put that program together. Frequently, these CTE programs, in order to stand them up, getting the curriculum, getting the connecting with the local industry, all of those things are relatively straightforward. But there can be quite a bit of capital expenditure to stand that up. The colleges are small. They don't have large pocketbooks where they can roll out $1 million to start up a new program, but they need that initial investment so that they can then move forward. Wyoming Works did address that. However, it is dependent upon appropriations. So there were 2 appropriations, one in 2019 and one in 2021. I think several of you up here played a large role in that and probably remember that. It was highly effective. There's a lot of, we have that all documented, the number of graduates, the number of job placements, all of those things. But as far as sustainability and ongoing funding for that, an interim topic might be a good way to kind of get at what are those costs, how can we address this, and what is a sustainable approach rather than waiting for an appropriation here and there.
Questions for Dr. Moritz or Ms. Taylor? Yes, Senator Scott.
Madam Chairman, several things. As we potentially look, Madam Chairman, at the Hathaway Scholarship, obviously that has considerable implications for the community colleges. When we first looked a few years after we put the Hathaway in, we found that quite a number of students were going to community college who otherwise would not have been able to do so. And my question is going to be, are you guys going to be able to come up with data, do you think, on whether we're still seeing that, or is the Hathaway declined too much as a part of the cost of going to college, so that it's no longer enabling the students that used to be able to come, their modern day counterparts, are they no longer enabled to come because of the Hathaway?
Dr. Moritz?
Madam Chair, Senator Scott, I would love to look into that question. We do have the data. It would take some time, and I think that's what interim topics can be really useful for.
Follow-up? Yes, go
Yeah,
ahead.
Madam Chairman, the follow-up is, should we look at the Wyoming's Tomorrow as part of the same look at Hathaway, or are they so different that we don't need to do that?
Go ahead, Dr. Moritz.
Madam Chair, Senator Scott, I think that that's also an interesting conversation. They were designed for different populations. There are different age limits for the different populations, but it would be interesting to see how are they being used? For what programs are they being used? I think that's what you're getting at to some extent.
Yeah, and Madam Chairman,
Yes, go
I
ahead.
think there's some people feel that the Wyoming's Tomorrow has taken the place of the Wyoming Works that he was talking about. It sounds like that's not, and that may be something we need to understand as well.
Good point. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much for your testimony. Appreciate it. I noticed Representative Brady, she's been waiting, and I almost forgot you. You're at the bottom of this page too. So please come forward and bring whoever you'd like.
Thank you, Chairwoman Schuler and members of the committee. My name is Marlene Brady, and I'm here to present House Bill 335, and you'll find it introduced in the bottom of page 2 into page 3. So I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present House Bill 335, the Wyoming Educational Religious Freedom Act, for your consideration as an interim topic, committee topic. This legislation seeks to uphold constitutional principles by establishing clear guidelines that protect religious freedom while preventing any single viewpoint from dominating classroom instruction. The bill aims to create an educational environment where the religious liberty of all students and families is respected, while maintaining appropriate constitutional boundaries that have long protected Americans' freedom of belief. So the constitutional foundation is this bill directly aligns with Article 1, Section 19, and Article 7, Section 12 of the Wyoming Constitution, which prohibit sectarian instruction in public schools. The legislation also upholds the First Amendment of the United States Constitution by protecting religious freedom in educational settings. Recent court decisions strengthen the legal foundation for this bill, including the 2025 Pennsylvania case of Brandy Brandel versus West Shore School District, which established precedent recognizing certain educational framework as sectarian religion. This case aligns with others, such as Mozart versus Hawkins County Board of Education, 1987, highlighting that social emotional programs can infringe upon religious freedom and parental rights through mandatory emotional disclosure, identity exploration, and prescribed moral frameworks. So I'll go page by page if you're ready for that.
Yep.
All right, Section 1, and the purpose and findings for laws 21-9-301, 21-9-302. You'll find it on pages 1 through 3.
Representative Brady, I don't think any of us have a copy of that.
Oh,
So-
you don't?
So maybe if you could just give us the highlights of
All
the
right.
bill, because was this a bill that you presented or that you
Yes,
brought
I
this
assumed
year?
it would be in your packet
Oh,
today.
no,
Oh,
it
I'm so
wasn't.
sorry.
So maybe just kind of give us a high-level view of it, and
Okay.
we'll take a look at it after the fact. How's that?
All right, good. And if I'm getting too far, just let me know. I'll just read what it was. Wyoming Education Religious Freedom Act establishes that certain educational frameworks and practices constitute sectarian instruction through establishment of comprehensive belief systems, implementation of mandatory ritual-like practices, imposition of specific moral ethical frameworks, creation of hierarchical authority structures for moral guidance, required acceptance and practice of specific world views, mandatory participation in belief-based activities. The legislation identifies compelling government interests in protecting students' rights and conscience, maintaining religious neutrality in public education, and ensuring parents' rights in directing their children's education, preserving academic freedom while preventing compelled speech. That's one group. The bill provides clear definition of educational institution and sectarian practices applying to all public schools, districts, statewide, state-funded educational programs. Next section speaks about the bill specifically prohibits educational instruction from implementing curricula, instruction, or programming that requires students to participate in mandatory emotional disclosure activities, mandates acceptance of specific beliefs about power dynamics or privilege, compels identity exploration or recognition, enforces particular viewpoints about social or cultural structures. Importantly, the bill explicitly protects balanced academic instruction about historical.
Representative Brady.
Yes.
Would you be willing to give us maybe the motivation for this piece of legislation and then kind of what you're trying? Because we aren't necessarily discussing bills
Okay.
here. We're just kind of discussing topics that we can
Okay.
talk about that could
All
bring
right.
us to
Very
maybe
good.
a piece of legislation like
All right.
this. But yes,
Okay, thank you, Chairman. And then Representative Andrew. Basically, what this is about is returning classical education without sectarian influence back into the classroom. So that's our general, and plus we have Patricia here, and she might want to hit on a few things.
Any questions for Representative Brady before we move?
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Take just a couple minutes. We're kind of starting to lose a little time here, so go ahead.
Thank you, Chairwoman Schuler, members of the committee. I'll be super brief. The reason that we have brought this legislation is because of the concerns of hundreds of parents throughout Wyoming. I mean, we've seen examples where parental authority has been invalidated. Just for an example, in October of 2022, a student at a high school right here in Cheyenne was kicked out of class for declining to participate in a gender identity lesson and refusing to watch a PBS documentary titled Growing Up Trans. That student lost their right of conscience and they were removed from the classroom because they refused to participate. They were punished for refusing to participate. Really, this is about an academic focus. Parents want to see their children being educated in reading, writing, math, arithmetic, the basics, instead of ideological theories and things like that. For example, in Fremont County School District 1 Lander, during a July 16, 2024 school board meeting, parents expressed concerns over the district's focus on transgender topics in classes, arguing it diverted attention from academics. And this came right as the Wyoming's 2023-24 YTOP results showed Fremont County 1's proficiency ratings lagging, with only 54% of students proficient in ELA and 49% proficient in math. And also it touches on religious neutrality, because we have parents and families of diverse religious backgrounds, right? Everyone is entitled to their own rights to their beliefs and their religion. And during a Natrona County school board meeting on February 13th, 2023, parents raised concerns over a proposed health curriculum that included gender identity and sexual orientation topics for middle and high school students. They argued that the curriculum pressured students to adopt views conflicting with their beliefs. And then you have the protection of conscience for the students as well. Students should never be compelled to participate in emotional processing activities or be forced to accept particular viewpoints in order to receive good grades. And then it comes down to educational quality as well. The bill promotes a positive learning environment where students can freely explore viewpoints through academic discussion rather than through an ideological viewpoint, thus creating an environment that respects all students' rights to their own beliefs and things like that. This bill does align with the Wyoming Constitution, as she said. It is carefully crafted to protect genuine academic instruction. I know a lot of concerns with the other bills has been, what about teaching history and things that are a little more sensitive? This bill addresses that in great detail. It targets only mandatory belief-imposing practices, which I would give you the lines and everything for, but you don't have a copy of it, so. But really, we've gone through all of the legalities of the US Constitution, the Wyoming Constitution, and the statutes, and we have made sure that this aligns with both.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions? Okay, Representative Kelly?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So the gist of it, I haven't read the bill. Are we looking here then more about protecting parents' rights than we're looking at policing curriculum?
Representative Brady or Ms.
Thank you,
McCoy?
Chairwoman Schuler. Representative Kelly, no, it's not just about parental rights. It's about a better education for our students and also their rights as students and their own beliefs, as well as teachers. We've seen teachers getting punished for not wanting to teach certain topics as well, or not wanting to use proper pronouns as requested. So it does protect their rights as well.
Other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, anyone from the public? I think we've gotten through all the representatives and senators, and I know Representative Strzok, you came in late. We did talk about the Hathaway. Did you want to add anything, or are you good with moving forward? Okay, all right, thanks. All right, feel free, come on up. Keep it coming. Yeah, we can have two at a time, even if you're not talking on the same topic. We'll happy to introduce yourself and let us know who you are.
Hi, Madam Chair, Carrie Klein, Wyoming Public Charter School Association. Members of the committee, I just wanted to come up and just take an opportunity to let you know that we are committed and ready to work on this with the committee this interim. You know, as we worked through the legislation of the session, in partnership with the governor's office, we did identify the topics you saw in my submission there. So those were kind of the ones that rose to the top of some issues that we think the committee could possibly look at. You know, we're excited to work with the authorizing board, their executive director, and really to bring some solutions to this committee. I'm not expecting you to come up with them, but really trying to partner with you and have some sort of a volunteer work group or whatever we can put together and bring those with you. And I did want to mention also, I think, but I'm not sure, but Janine Bayteski, who is the chairwoman of the authorizing board, potentially could be online. I don't know if she would want to still chime in or not. So
Would you like her to come on right now, or should we wait till the very end? What's your pleasure?
It's absolutely up to you. I don't know if she's made it or not today.
Let's
but
go
she
ahead and
just
keep
mentioned she
taking
might.
testimony in the room, and then if we have
Sounds
time,
great.
we'll go ahead and bring her in.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Klein? Okay, thanks so much. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And thank you to all of you for your service to the state. I know it's been a very, very busy session, and I appreciate all of your work. My name is Emily Stanton. I serve on the ACSD1 Board of Trustees in Albany County, though I am not here in that role today, and I am not representing the views of anybody else on the board. Today, I'm here in my role as a mental health professional of over 20 years. I am also here today as the parent of a third grader in Albany County and as a wife to my beautiful, loyal, and wise-hearted wife. I'm here to address issues around mental health and the LGBT community, and I appreciate some of the discussion we just heard and all of the important topics before you all. But I would like this body to consider the intersection of legislation, concerns around the LGBT community, and what we're seeing in mental health. I do appreciate that we're no longer first in teen suicide, but it is still a very, very prevalent issue. And if we look at questions of epidemic, in my view, we do not have an epidemic of kids who have the courage to say, this is who I am, this is who I want to be, please call me by my name, please see me as a real person. This is not an epidemic, but we do have an epidemic of mental health problems seen in our LGBT youth. And I just want to clarify that the mental health problems we see in LGBT youth is not because having that identity in and of itself causes a feeling of oppression or marginalization. It's because of how society reacts to kids. And that causes that idea of I'm not worthy, I don't deserve to be here, there's not a place for me, there's something wrong with me. And I know that there's been some concern in the discourse about grooming kids and telling them who to be, but I can assure you that as part of this LGBT community, we know homophobia, we know transphobia before we know who we are. In my personal story, my first thought about who I was I'm not a lesbian. No one has to know. I knew that for a decade before I had the courage to say, I'm gonna go ahead and be myself. So I do wanna share that our trans kids, our LGBT youth, our queer kids, they are some of our most creative, courageous, innovative, strong characters we have in our communities. We are lucky to embrace them in our communities and in our schools and in our churches. The effort it takes to say, I'm going to be true to myself at whatever cost, that is not something to be undermined or held down or silenced. These kids are STEM innovators, they're athletes, they're mathletes, they're in 4-H. My wife still talks so fondly about how she was treated in her 4-H club, and that's what made us move back to Wyoming. She's a third-generation Wyomingite, and her knowledge of the strength of the community and how she's accepted here is what brought us back to Wyoming. In my private practice, I've worked with teens who struggle to come out, know that their families won't be accepted, worry intensely about how they'll be received in their schools, but start to identify who they are. And many of them deal with suicidal thoughts. Many of them deal with the constant anxiety of being found out, of being bullied, of being ostracized. And I have gotten postcards from people who've moved away to other states and said, thank you for your help. I'm glad I stayed alive. I would like Wyoming to be a state where kids can discover that they're glad they stayed alive. I don't want them to have to move. I don't want them to feel like they'll be safer in other communities. I managed to not look at my notes at all, so I'm gonna see what else felt important to me to say. I think I have a vision where no one is forced to adopt a belief that goes in contrast with the religious views that they hold close to them, but also no one is forced to remain silenced or invisible. Someone can say, that's not for me. My religion that doesn't correspond with my morals and ethics and values and my religion, but you're free to be yourself, right? We're sitting here with members of a Freedom Caucus, and sometimes we're seeing legislation come out of here that wants to legislate and regulate someone can or cannot be called their own name. To me, that's not very free to me. I'd like to see kids be able to be honored, be able to be recognized. And I think, sometimes if a kid is struggling to know that they're going to be accepted in their own family or their own church, sometimes when they go to school, school is the safest place for them. So I'm very committed to having our schools be a place for every kid. That doesn't mean I happen to just be looking at you, Senator Olson, but this isn't personal. But that doesn't mean you have to go home and say, I'm doing it the right way to be married to a woman. You can go home and say, I'm gonna hang on to my thing. This is what's right for me. But we're looking at regulating pronouns, regulating what bathrooms people can be and what plumbing they can use to use the bathroom behind a closed stall. And we're looking at making narrower and narrower spaces for these kids who are already struggling to have the courage to be themselves. So I request to hold these kids in your hearts during the interim session and think about the mental health crisis we have for LGBT youth. I didn't bring a lot of statistics here. Those are easily available online, but hold these kids in your hearts and think about our schools as community. I spoke with some of you about the lab school legislation, and what we heard from that community was how school is a community, and it needs to be a community for all of us. So I'm also gonna open my comments or close my comments today by opening and inviting any conversation from any of you to give me a call or email me, to have a no shame, no contentious, no blame conversation. I'm always happy, I'm sort of more of a basketball mom and approaching my 50th year here, so sometimes when they add a new stripe to the pride flag, I'm maybe just as confused as any of you might be. And I have to call people and say, hey, this is silly, but can you help me understand this? And I welcome a phone call like that from any of you, because I think we've seen a culture and climate of increasing divide and decreasing dialogue. And as I appreciate that this was on the agenda, and as you go forth looking at how we can climb ourselves out of third in suicide rates higher up, I'd welcome any further conversation about this topic without any judgment at all.
Thank you for your testimony, Ms. Stanton. Any questions for Ms. Stanton? Okay. Oh, sorry, Representative Kelly, you're on that far the score there. I barely see you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Throwing a joke about me being on the far right. Thank you for your testimony. I understand the courage it takes to be part of a group that would be stigmatized. I mean, it wasn't until Elon Musk went on SNL that I went public about being autistic myself because of the label. You did talk about a wide variety of subjects concerning your community. Which of our interim topics do you think would be the best fit for you to add your perspective? Because again, there was a wide berth of things that your testimony could fit under.
Ms. Stanton? Go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I'm looking on page 11, Representative Kelly, mental health issues in education. Contact person, Chairwoman Schuler. And a note here, we're no longer the leading state for suicide for our youth, but still in the top 3. We still have some work to do. In that work, I ask you to consider reducing any marginalization of any group and making a space for all of our kids in all of our schools.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you for your testimony. Welcome. Please introduce yourself, even though we've seen you a few times this year.
Madam Chairman, members of the committee, great to see you all again. And first of all, just gratitude here to speak on behalf of Career and Technical Education for all you did this session. It was really, really impactful. We're grateful for that. As we uncovered all the things happening with CTE, we did find that middle school may be being left out, and the computer science is a mandate, but is not funded. And so those are 2 things, whether it is during, the interim here or recalibration, wherever that may fit, we just didn't want that to fall through the cracks after such great progress has been made. So that was all I had.
Questions for Ms. Defoe?
Probably have all
You
our
did some
stats.
remarkable things this year, so
That's great.
very good job. No questions, I guess? Keep it coming. Anybody else in the room that would like to testify? Wow, moving right along. I do see that Representative Harshman had a couple of topics. He's not here. I don't see him. I guess you could just look at those, and I don't know if you guys have any background on either one of those that he mentioned. He may have had 3, actually. No, 2. No, 3. But if you'd like to speak on them, you're welcome to. The Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I would just say that if the committee were to take up the topic on mental health, I would think that the topic concerning, that he submitted concerning social media would be appropriate combined with that, because I think that is a big issue. My own community has experienced tragedy of suicide based on social media, a high school student, and the parent having no idea that those hidden apps were on that child's phone. So they had no idea of the source of the issue. So, and it all originated within the school system, and it was about things going on in the high school at that time. So.
Any other comments on any of those bills? So I think that's a good one to combine as well. Anything else? No one else in the room? Let's go ahead. I think we have some time. If we hurry, we can probably get a couple of those folks online in real quick.
Madam Chairman, you currently have 1 person logged in online.
Okay. If we talk long enough, they go away, right? Just kidding. Who do we have?
Cassie Craven is online. I've invited her to join the room.
Okay.
Oh, yep, she's joining now.
Welcome. Please introduce yourself. We just have a few minutes, so try and keep it fairly succinct if you could.
Of course. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and members of the Joint Committee. My name is Cassie Craven, here today representing Longhorn Ventures. If you turn to page 10 in your packet, toward the bottom there's a proposed interim topic that was proposed by a former teacher in the Cheyenne School District, Laramie County 1. She was a special education teacher and has a lot of background in this space. I think it folds into some of the topics that have been discussed already, maybe with regard to student discipline, management of students in the classroom that could somewhat be disruptive. This was a personal experience that she had and one that she shares with an informal coalition, if you will, of other special educators around the state, where they have been experiencing the fallout from least restrictive environment and how it seems to be an issue that the districts are dealing with. It could be multifaceted, maybe from a funding perspective, but also what a least restrictive environment within federal law means. That's not a place, but instead it's an accommodation. How do we keep these students in the classroom as much as possible? As it was touched on earlier, this can sometimes have some disruption issues with regard to the other students. This can have safety issues with regard to teachers. And it's her understanding, her experience, and the experiences of many of her colleagues that this is driving teachers out of the profession. And so we proposed this topic, and I'm speaking on behalf of her and others like her today to just get the committee to consider maybe how we could think about addressing these issues to make better learning environments for all the students. And I'd stand for any questions.
Thank you. Ms. Craven, any questions? Okay, great. Appreciate your topic, or talking about the topic. That was one that we hadn't gotten to, so
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman.
thanks again. Anyone else then online?
No, Madam Chairman.
I guess the others decided to bag it. All right, well, I would suggest, with, of course, the good co-chairman's blessing, that we go ahead and start putting together our topics, unless you'd like to discuss any of them a little bit more, putting the priority list together. I will say this, and I think the good folks over our, I call them our specialists, education specialists, have kind of given us a little summary. With recalibration, there's a very real possibility that school nutrition will be mentioned there, charter school, CTE, and mental health. Those will probably all be taken up with recalibration, so we may not want to have duplicative bills, but we may want to keep some of those things on the front burner anyway. Anything else, though, committee? No? All right, it's going to be great. I'm looking really forward to working with all of you. I don't know if you want to work with this crusty old senators, but I'm looking forward to seeing some people that aren't all cotton tops. Oh, sorry, Abby. Sorry. No, we do have. Yeah. I guess I'm just talking about Senator Scott and I. Is that right? Wow, wow. Well, so.
Apparently that was
Oh. Rumors everywhere.
We're gonna bring fun into the,
Yes.
from the House side. 'Cause
Yes.
we're a kind of scrappy group.
Yeah, well, we like scrappy over there on the Senate side too, don't we? We like to have fun, believe it or not. You may have seen in the last little day or two, we've actually done some fun things. We don't generally, but we have done some. Senator Scott.
Chairman. Madam Chairman, on the charter schools, I think looking at the full sweep of the statutes is somewhat independent of what the recalibration people are likely to do on the specific funding issues.
Okay.
And so I think there's a good deal there that is beyond the recalibration.
Okay. Great topic. Anything else? Okay. All right. Yes, Senator Lawley, or excuse me, Representative Lawley. I'm so used to saying Senator. It's going to take me a minute.
It's all right. It's no problem. The last person who spoke online, I do think that topic, I saw that as kind of already folding in when I had read it, and on some of mine, I did categories, school discipline, and kind of I put combined topics, but I think that is one that is a part of that discussion, and I do think it, as a grandparent of a special needs child, I think it is a very important discussion.
I would agree. Yes, go ahead, Representative Kelly.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'd just like to urge everyone to really consider school discipline, because that is a very focused subject, and Wyoming education has so many headwinds right now to find, recruit, and retain good educators, and that is important across the board, not just for their job quality, not for the quality of life of them, but the students, the parents. So many issues can be addressed just by getting that problem under control.
Very good point. I agree wholeheartedly. Yes. Yes, yes. I think we probably could combine the school discipline with behavioral issues and, you know, the restraints and seclusion. There's probably a lot of that, but they are all real important. So, anything else? Senator, keep wanting to call people senator, sorry. Representative Struck.
As I've learned today, we can be whatever we want to be, considering that news article of oceans. So,
True story.
yes.
Well, go ahead.
What I was going to say, I see a lot of Hathaway conversation in here too. And then I guess I also saw with your your CTE and that, fits into what I would like to do with the Hathaway Scholarship. So I just felt like some of that was a very important career technical stuff is really opening up for why, we really need to look at that for students and see how we can make it more of a priority maybe in schools, and then follow up with the Hathaway one onto that. So I'm not sure how that can all be combined, but.
Certainly. Well, I think it was mentioned 2 or 3 times in here, so it's obviously an important priority. Anything else? Yes, Senator Scott?
Madam Chairman. In the literacy area, I'm going to make one request for the State Department, and probably also, I don't think the university people are here, but I'd like to see some of the actual research articles on what really works, particularly on the retention area. I've not been impressed with what I've seen so far, and I'd like to see some of the better academic work that's been done there, and in general, what are the researchers telling us works and what doesn't?
Okay. Anything else? Any parting words? Speaker of the House? Oh, wait, Representative Erickson, sorry, before we get to you.
I appreciate Madam Chair, sorry. I appreciate him talking about maybe combining some ideas and some general attitudes, but I would like to encourage here at the end of our session to, especially with these CTEs and trades and things like that, I would really hope that we can zero in a little bit more about what our community colleges are offering and how far they've come in meeting the demand of a lot of these our trades. I mean, I am just so impressed with what they've been able to do recently and over a considerable amount of time. And the focus, I would like to see the focus especially look to the positive things that they are doing and meeting those things that we're all asking for. And when we've, in my opinion, we've spent so much time in looking at how can we outsource this type of thing. And, and we spent a lot of time on a bill that was about trying to allow to where we have non-accredited. And when we probably, in my opinion, should have been spending a lot more time on, hey, they've got it and they're moving towards it, and there's a lot of ground being made up. And so I would just encourage that we look definitely in that direction.
Yeah, I would chime in on that, Representative Erickson. I think that's a really good point. I have a family member that teaches in another state, the charter school, and it is tied in with a community college that has the same topic of interest. It's more of a vocational type charter school, and they just have some amazing results. They do some really good work, so it would be worth it to look at some of those kinds of things for sure. Representative Lawley.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just a clarification, when you talked about the CTE subject and recalibration, of course, that doesn't include the community colleges. So that is a separate topic, I believe, than outside of the recalibration. Yeah, they're funded differently. So I want us to I kind of echo what Representative Erickson said about that. And I assume that the idea of dropping down CTE into middle school would be considered in recalibration.
I believe it would. Is that correct?
Okay, thank you.
Our experts say yes.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Any other comments? Yes, Senator Scott.
And Chairman, one thing that hasn't come up and may be better with what's going on in Washington, I would recommend the committee put as maybe its last priority, but definitely there, the ability to look at any federal issues that require state action. if they do something radical in the education area. We used to routinely do that in Committee 10 and often got unexpected work about October in the year when they do their last minute budget things. And if they abolish a program or give us an entirely new program, there may well be something we have to react to that will come at us suddenly, and it's best to have license from the Management Council ahead.
Good point. Anything, Representative Andrew, or Chairman Andrew? No?
Nothing to add.
Speaker, whatever you'd like to be called, I'll call you.
Whatever you'd like.
So with that, let's go ahead and get your priorities down, and I'll take the ones from the Senate, and the good representative or speaker here will take the ones from the House. So have a good rest of the day. We'll look forward to seeing you in the interim. Thanks for
Madam
all your
Chairman,
work.
if I might, real quick before you guys leave, a reminder of your committee dates. Everybody should have received a calendar invite from me for each one. If you didn't, please let me know. But you're scheduled for May 28th and 29th in Casper, August 21st and 22nd in Casper, and then November 13th and 14th here in Cheyenne.
I guess we should have. Thanks for reminding us,
Could you
Ashley.
give us those dates again?
One more time, Ashley.
Absolutely. So your first meeting will be May 28th and 29th in Casper, August 21st and 22nd in Casper, and then November 13th and 14th in Cheyenne.
Everybody got those? Okay. Well, thanks again, everyone. With that, we'll just go ahead and close the meeting and adjourn. Have a great day.